everybody, it's Mel. Thank you for joining me today for my Roll of Reads TBR game for April. So for anyone that doesn't know, Roll of Reads is my TBR game that I have been playing throughout this year, and also I've been playing a fair bit just generally for a few years now to determine what books I'm going to read for the coming month. I will link the playlist starting this January because the rules have changed a little bit, so I will link just this year's TBR game playlist for you in the description below so that you can go and check that out, so you can check out all the rules, all the different prompts might mean, all of that sort of thing. But to give you a brief rundown before we start, I have this TBR game board with 1 through 20 places on the board. My game is very loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons, specifically the way that combat works when you're playing D&D. So in combat in D&D, if you roll a 1, then it means that you have done really badly. You've probably dropped your sword or your bow, or you've fallen over, or you've scratched yourself, or you've done something like that. So in my game, if you roll a 1, then that means you have to take a punishment. If you roll a 20 in D&D, however, then that is a critical roll, which means that a critical win, which means that you definitely hit, no questions asked, you did double damage. Basically, it's the best roll you can have. For that reason, in my game, if you roll a 20, then you get a reward. So those are the very kind of basic rules of the game. In terms of general gameplay, what I do is I take a bunch of prompts and place them out on each number space on the board. I then roll a 20-sided dice, or a d20, and whatever number I roll is then I need to pick up the prompt from that corresponding number. This year we have 5 prompts that permanently stay on the board. On the 1, which is my punishment space, then I have out of my comfort zone, so I have to read a book that makes me feel like it's out of my comfort zone. On the 20, which is my reward space, I have a mood read, so I can read any book that I want throughout the month. I also have 3 other spaces that are permanently there, which you'll see when I set up the game. So that's generally how I play the game. The other rule is that if I roll the same number twice, then I need to take another punishment if I do that. This year, so far, I have been rolling 5 rolls. That's subject to potential change depending on how it goes. It hasn't been going super well, so we'll see how we go in April. I think that might be the deciding factor. So that means that we need to go through all of the books that I was supposed to read in the month of February, because we're ignoring March because March was the readathon for Roll of Reads, which is a separate entity of its own. So I have to check how I went in February, if I read all of the books, whether I therefore get a reward or a punishment, and then we can go ahead and play the game. So let's go through and do that. No, actually, because I will likely forget again, first of all I want to talk about some reads that I have to do, some I can't think of words at the moment. Apologies. Yes, some obligation reads that I have. So, in the month of April, I'm doing 2 buddy reads with 2 different friends of mine. So with my friend Alison, who I've done buddy reads with many times on this channel, spoken about many times on this channel, I'm going to be reading Defiant, which I do have here somewhere, right here, Defiant by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 4th and I believe final book in this series, which I think is called the Skyward series. So this is the 4th and I'm pretty sure final book in that series. This is a sci-fi young adult series. It is about a teenager called Spencer, and in the first book, Skyward, Spencer lives on this planet. She is a human who lives on this planet. It's not Earth, it's a different planet, and humans this planet is being constantly bombarded and attacked by a race of aliens, and the humans don't know why, but they constantly are having to fight. And Spencer wants to be a pilot, spaceship pilot, so that she can help fight this war. The series expands from there and we learn a whole bunch of other things. I've been really enjoying this series. So yeah, my friend Alison and I are going to buddy read Defiant this month in April, and I'm excited to finish out the series because it's been a while since I read them. So that one is going on the TBR. And I'm hoping to be able to fit it into the game. I'm also going to be reading The Little Friend by Donna Tartt with my friend Michelle. I don't know much about this one. Other than it's by Donna Tartt. Michelle and I have both read 2 books from Donna Tartt before we buddy read them both and really enjoyed them. So hoping that will therefore mean that we'll really enjoy this one. We'll see how we go. But yes, that's 2 buddy reads that I'm definitely going to be doing and trying to fit on the TBR. In terms of my Patreon, the Patreons that I'm a part of, not my Patreon, I'm a part of Beautifully Bookish Bethany's Patreon, and the book club read for that Patreon for April is a manga. I think it's called Sweat and Soap. Honestly, I'm not that interested in that manga, so I'm going to give that a miss this month in April. And then for Paige's Patreon, there's buddy reads, but I'm not sure what they are yet. I don't think it's been announced. So Future Mel or Editing Mel will insert a clip or something here if there is something that's come up, but I don't know of anything. So if anything's come up that I'm interested in or that I can get, it'll be an add-on. But yeah, those are the things I need to do in April. But now let's have a look at my TBR from the month of February. Sorry, like I said, losing words. I think mum brain is finally catching up with me. But anyway, let's look at my TBR from February and see how I went and see whether I get a reward or a punishment. So we'll do that. I just need to remind myself what those books were because I apparently didn't organise that part of things, which I normally would do. But anyway, that's okay. Mum brain, like I said. Okay. So the first prompt that I got was Animal on the Cover, and I ended up choosing The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. But then throughout the month I swapped it out, which I'm allowed to do. I swapped it out for Crooked Kingdom, which I'd chosen for a different thing, but I swapped things around. So I chose Crooked Kingdom because it has some animals on the cover as well, and I did read that one. Then I got the prompt Book with More Than 10 Letters in the title. I chose The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, which I did read. The next prompt that I got was Viewer Recommends, and I have a spinner wheel for that, which I spin with all the books that people have recommended, and I got The Great Alone, and I didn't read that one. So that means that's a punishment. So I have to have, definitely have to have punishment. So honestly, it doesn't really matter what else I've read. But let's have a look anyway. Before I do though, if you'd like to, please recommend a book to me and I will add it to that spinner wheel for Viewer Recommends. And then I decided, then I got Most Beautiful cover, and then I decided initially to use Crooked Kingdom, but what I did instead throughout the month was I switched Crooked Kingdom to Animal on the Cover, as you saw, and I finished a book that I'd started in January, and that was The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik. I did read that one, or finish that one. Then I got TBR jar and I pulled out The Ministry for the Future by Kim Stanley Robinson, and I had read by the time I made my March TBR, I had read a quarter of the book, which is all I need to read for those really thick books in order for it to count towards not having to get a punishment, if that makes sense. But I still haven't finished it, and it is going into April. But I did read the quarter, so technically I wouldn't have had to have punishment, except obviously I already do. But anyway. And then for Western or Central Asian author, I chose The Stationery Shop of Tehran by Marjan Kamali, which I did read. But as we've said a few times now, I did not read The Great Alone, so that means I'd have to take a punishment, unfortunately. But that's how it goes. So we'll see how we go in April, and that'll decide whether I continue to do 5 rolls or whether I drop it down to 4 every month. But for this month, we're doing 5 rolls, and obviously I have to pick my punishment card first. So I've actually done all that. So let's go ahead and set up the board, do the punishment, do the rolls and everything like that, and then I will come back and talk to you about how that all went. So yeah, here is past me. Alright, so I have to start with a punishment. So punishment is roll over an unread book. So we are already having 6 books. This might not go that well, but we'll see how we go. Okay, and then we do roll number 1, which is 5, which is TBR jar. So that's always fun. And I'm going to leave it there, but I'm going to put a counter down to show that we have done roll number 1. All right. Roll number 2 is a 3. Book title with more than 10 letters, which we have had once before, and it was recommended to me by Tracy, so thank you, Tracy. Place that card. All right, roll number 3 is a 10 for a project. All right, we'll place that there, and I don't have any more counters in this pencil case, so I'm going to use a clip to show we're up to roll number 3, or we're up to roll number 4 now, and roll number 4. Oh, there's a 1, which is out of my comfort zone, and I need another thing to mark that we've done roll number 4. So I'll use a dice, and I need to have a punishment. So we will have add any book. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I can add any book, but I'm going to now have 7 books. Oh dear. Oh well, that's okay. All right, but now we're on our 5th and final roll, which is an 18, neurodivergent rep. Okay, cool. Okay, so as you just saw, the punishment that I ended up with is roll over an unread book. So for this one, I am going to choose Surrender by Bono, the frontman of U2. So I am about a quarter of the way into this book. I'm just here, a fifth of the way into this book, and I'm enjoying it so far. I just don't know that I'm going to finish it by the end of the month, because I have, 4/5 of the book left and 8 days to read it, and I don't think that's going to happen because I'm in the middle of 2 other books and I'm going to be starting a manga. So yeah, I just don't think I'm going to finish this one, even though I am quite enjoying it, partly because I thought I would read quite quickly, and when I'm actually reading it, it is, but I just tend not to read non-fiction very much, especially not at the moment for some reason. I'm not really kind of drawn towards it every day or anything like that. I should read it more because I am enjoying it, but anyway, the point is I think this is going to be the book that I'm going to roll over. So this is a book by Bono, and it is basically, it says 40 Songs, Our Story. It's the story of U2 from Bono's perspective. It is taking 40 of their songs that they've written and using those as a lens by which to look at their lives and the story of U2. And it's quite interesting so far. Bono's quite a good writer, as you'd imagine, because if you like U2, I enjoy U2 obviously, or I would not have and be reading this book. But yeah, so that's one is my punishment book, although it's not really a punishment. That is rolling over from March, so it's rolling over from the last month, even though it wasn't on my TBR for February, if that makes sense. Okay, then the first, what have I done with the prompts? They were just here. Here we go. The first actual prompt that I got was one of the permanent prompts, which is my TBR jar. So for that, I have, it's not a very interesting looking jar or box, but I have this little container here within which I've got all of these colourful different pieces of paper, rolled up pieces of paper that have all of the books on my TBR, or the physical books I should say, on my TBR. So when I get this card, I will pull one of the book names, titles out of the jar here, and then I will have to read that book. This is a permanent prompt, so it stays throughout every time I set up the board, but also throughout each game. So potentially in theory, although you'll have seen that didn't happen, but in theory I can potentially pick more than one out of the jar each time. Anyway, let's go ahead and do that now. So I'll give it a bit of a shake around shuffle. Alright, and let's go with this one. So it is a blue. The The colours don't mean anything, by the way. I just like the colours. Can you read that? Okay, it is The Inheritance of Orchidia Divina by Zoraida Cordova. So let me just grab that, which is this book here. Very, very pretty. So this is, it says, the Montoyas are used to a life without explanations. But when the matriarch, Orchidia Divina, invites them to her funeral, they hope to learn the secrets that she has held onto so tightly their whole lives. Instead, Orchidia is transformed, leaving them with more questions than answered. 7 years later, her gifts have manifested in different ways for Marimar, Ray and Rhiannon, granting them unexpected blessings. But soon, a hidden figure begins to tear through their family tree and seek to destroy Orchidia's line. Determined to save their family and uncover the truth behind their inheritance, they travel to Ecuador, to the place where Orchidia buried her secrets and broken promises and never looked back. Alternating between Orchidia's past and her descendants' present, The Inheritance of Orchidia Divina is about what we knowingly and unknowingly inherit from our ancestors, the ties that bind, and reclaiming our power. That sounds absolutely amazing. Honestly, I'd totally forgotten everything about this book, so I'm super excited now because that sounds really awesome. I apologize. I was sent this by an amazing friend as a present, but I cannot remember who it was that sent it to me, so apologies. Please comment if it was you and remind me. I normally put the gift cards in, but I haven't done that this time, which is very bad. So yeah, anyway, this is the book that I'm going to be picking up. Apologies, like I said, if you were the one that sent it to me, and thank you so much to whoever that was. Sounds really fun, and yeah, this is the second book on the TBR. And then I think this is the right order. Hopefully this is the right order. I got a 10, which is another permanent prompt, and that is for a project. So what I have decided is that I'm going to choose an audiobook, because on my 25 in 20 bingo board for 2025 that I'm using for my goals this year, I had to read a certain amount of audiobooks, a certain percentage of audiobooks. And sorry, I'm looking for my phone. I feel very disorganized today. Okay, got the phone. So I'm going to screen record, and then I'm going to pull up my Audible, because I have a bunch of things downloaded on Audible which I have not actually read, and so now you can see what they are, and I'll put that on the screen obviously. So I have a few that I'm quite interested. I'm interested in them all, obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't have downloaded them. I'm kind of wanting to go for a non-fiction, but at the same time I'm reading a non-fiction, so I don't know how well that will go down, so we might not do that. I've heard great things about a lot of these books. I am torn between Song of the Crocodile by Nadie Simpson and Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. I feel like I haven't read a book by an Indigenous Australian author for quite a while, so I might go for
This
that
is Audible.
one. Can I get a synopsis? Not on Audible, I don't think. Let's see what Goodreads has to say. Alright, so it says Darnmore, the gateway to happiness. The sign taunts a fool into feeling some sense of achievement, some kind of end, that you have reached a destination in the very least. Yet as the sign states, Darnmore is merely a gateway, a waypoint on the road to where you really want to be. Darnmore is the home of the Billy Mill family. 3 generations who have lived in this gateway town. Various relations between Indigenous and settler families are fraught, though the rigid status quo is upheld through threats and soft power rather than the overt violence of yesteryear. As progress marches forwards, Darnmore and its surroundings undergo rapid social and environmental changes, but as some things change, some stay exactly the same. The Billy Mill family are watched, and sometimes visited, by ancestral spirits and spirits of the recently deceased who look out for their descendants and attempt to help them on the right path. When the town's secret starts to be uncovered, the town will be rocked by a violent act that forever shatters a century of silence. That sounds really, really interesting. So I'm very excited now to read that one. So yay, that is Song of the Crocodile by Nadi Simpson. The next prompt that I got was book title with more than 10 letters, and this was suggested to me by Tracy. Thank you very much, Tracy. This is the second time that I have picked up this prompt this year. Last time it led me to a really fantastic book, so fingers crossed it does the same. So let me just have a look at my TBR shelf and see what I would like to read. Okay, so that was fairly quick. I decided to go with A Few Right-Thinking Men by Sulari Gentile because my mum gave me this and the second book in the series for my birthday. Sorry, not my birthday, for Christmas. And she's asked me about 6 or 7 times now whether I've read this book yet or whether I've read either of the books yet. And I have not. So because my mum's asked me multiple times and because it clearly has more than 10 letters in the title, let's just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, it definitely has more than 10 letters in the title. I'm going to pick this one up. So I've actually read this one before, but it's been quite a while since I read this book, so I don't remember a huge amount about it. And there are a few books in the series, at least 6, although I am not sure exactly how many. So I'll read the blurb to you. It says, Roland Sinclair is an artist and a gentleman. In Australia's 1930s, the Sinclair name is respectable and influential. Yet the youngest son, Roland, has a talent for scandal. Even with thousands of unemployed lining the streets, Roland's sheltered world is one of exorbitant wealth, culture, and impeccable tailoring. He relies on the Sinclair fortune to indulge his artistic passions and friends. A poet, a painter, and a brazen sculptress. Mounting tensions fueled by the Great Depression take Australia to the brink of revolution. Roland Sinclair is indifferent to the politics until a brutal murder exposes an extraordinary and treasonous conspiracy. So it's kind of a mixture of a murder mystery / spy novel, I think. So it sounds very interesting. Not really sure about the title, to be honest with you, but anyway, we'll figure out how that all fits in. But yeah, I'm excited to give this one a go and refresh my memory and hopefully then pick up the next book in the series, and then we'll see how we go from there. But thank you very much, Mum, for this for Christmas, and I'm excited to give it a go. So that's that one. Then I rolled a 1, so I have to read a book out of my comfort zone, and then I have to add any book. So for the add any book, I'm going to add Defiant by Brandon Sanderson, and I just talked about this one, so I won't go into detail again, but this is my add any book. This is my punishment book, but again, it's not really a punishment, but this is the additional book that I got as a punishment, if any of that makes sense. And then my out of my comfort zone book. Let me have a think about that one. So I'm going to read the first Murderbot book, which is All Systems Red. So my parents gave me this book that is a double book. It's a bind-up of the first 2 novellas, All Systems Red and Artificial Condition. So I'm going to read All Systems Red in the month of April, and we'll see how we go. This is the first Murderbot book. I've been hearing amazing things about the Murderbot Diaries, but honestly, this is kind of out of my wheelhouse. I do read sci-fi, but not a huge amount, and I've always been kind of nervous about Murderbots. Like, I hear so many good things about it, but sci-fi isn't completely in my comfort zone. It's not totally out of it, but I just tend not to pick it up very much in book form. I watch a fair bit. But anyway, And the final prompt that I got today was neurodivergent rep. So for this one, I have decided to pick up the next in the Wayward Children series, which is, I decided to pick it up, but totally failed to look up which one that was. So where are we? Wayward Children books. In an Absent Dream is the next one. So this is a series of books of novellas, and it is centered around Eleanor somebody. It's school for wayward children. And the idea is that there are other worlds that you can reach through a portal, kind of like Narnia. So what Shauna Maguire kind of, I guess, thought was, what will happen to the kids when they came back? How do they feel about that? And so the conceit of the series is that there's a bunch of people who have gone through portals into other worlds, and now they've come back, and some of them don't want to be back in our world. Some of them feel like they fitted in, where they were when they were in this other world. So they now are in this position where they aren't necessarily happy, they don't necessarily enjoy where they are in our world, and so they're at Eleanor's school. In theory, their parents think they're there because they can't readjust to the actual world, but actually they're there because they have so much in common, because they want to be back, and Eleanor is helping them to kind of deal with where they are currently until they can get back to their actual world, if that makes sense. I think I did a terrible job of explaining that one, but it's a really great fantasy series. It's really fun, it's interesting, it's got so much rep of so many different sexualities and neurodivergencies and disabilities and just so many different things. This is the story of a very serious young girl who would rather study and dream than become a respectable housewife and live up to the expectations of the world around her, as well she should. When she finds a doorway to a world founded on logic and reason, riddles and lies, she thinks she's found her paradise. Alas, everything costs at the goblin market, and when her time is drawing to a close, she makes the kind of bargain that never plays out well for anyone. So yeah, I will listen to that audiobooks. That's how I've been listening, if I can get it. That's how I've been reading the other books, and I'm excited to dive back into this world. Another book that's reasonably short, so that will help with getting books finished in the TBR. Okay, so this is the TBR plus a couple of ebooks / audiobooks that I'll also be reading. So first of all, I had to pick a punishment because I didn't finish all the books in February's TBR. So I got the punishment rollover an unread book. It's not unread because I'm still reading it, but I chose Surrender by Bono. Then I had to pick a book out of my TBR jar, and for this one I ended up with The Inheritance of Orcadia Dabina by Zoraida Cordova. Then I got for a project, and for this one I decided to choose an audiobook because reading audiobooks is one of the goals that I've set for myself, which I consider a project, and for that I chose Song of the Crocodile by Nadi Simpson. Then I got the prompt book title with more than 10 letters, and I chose A Few Right Thinking Men by Solari Gentile. Then I got another I rolled a 1, so I ended up with another punishment, and the punishment that I ended up picking out was add any book, and for that I put in Defiant by Brandon Sanderson. The actual prompt was Out of My Comfort Zone, and for that one I decided to go with the first in the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells, and that is All Systems Red. And then finally I got the prompt Neurodivergent Rep, and for this I decided to go with In an Absent Dream by Shauna Maguire. So that's the TBR, and that means that is the end of the video pretty much. That's everything I need to talk to you about. Those are all the books that I'm going to end up trying to read. So that is 7 books, plus I also have to add The Little Friend by Donna Tartt, although because I'm not adding that to the actual TBR, I can just get away with saying that if I don't finish it, that's fine. But that's a book I'll be buddy reading in April, at least starting to buddy read in April with my friend Michelle. So this is a hefty TBR, so I'm not sure how we're going to go, but we'll give it a shot. But anyway, yeah, that's everything that I needed to talk to you about today. If you have any thoughts that you'd like to tell me about in the comments, have you read any of these books? What did you think of them? What will you be reading in April? Or like I said, anything else you'd like to let me know, please do so in the comments below. If you'd like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me this emoji, because I am a little surprised that pretty much none of these books are fantasy. I have a couple of sci-fi, I have a memoir, I have a mystery, I have 1 fantasy and 1 magical realism type, so or possibly 2 actually. So I guess there's a kind of fantasy elements, but it's still surprising I don't have an out and out epic fantasy on there, so give me one of those if you'd like to add a comment but you don't know what. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.